Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. And oh my gosh, my settings. And we're on time today, which is, I do try. I just fail. That's the problem. Anyway, so we've got a rather relaxed show tonight. We're getting into the twilight hours of this Ronversation, and we're gonna push through with that. And oh my gosh. And we're gonna do that for a little bit here, and then of course we're gonna go over to Twitch, and we've got two movies to watch. What was the? Oh, hold on. Trying to think. First, we're gonna watch Death Wish. Death Wish is of course a classic Charles Bronson movie. About, vigilantism and glory. We're going to watch Death Wish, and then we're going to follow that up with Evils of the Night, starring David Carradine. So, I have not actually seen either of these movies. So these will be new things for me, and I hope they'll be new for you guys as well. Why would we watch the Bruce Willis one? Who cares about the Bruce Willis one? No. But anyway, so that's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do, and it should be a good time. Let me briefly talk about, I guess, what's going on the rest of the week. I'm dumb. And I forgot, when are we going to follow up with the Con Thought News? When are you going to follow up with the Con Thought News? I don't know what that means. I am dumb and forgot, or I knew, but wasn't processing that the 4th of July was Saturday. And that means that my family, we go to the fireworks, on the 3rd of July, which is tomorrow. The 3rd of July is tomorrow, which means I won't be home by 11 o'clock. And I was going to have a Chad Dad stream tomorrow. But since I can't start it on time, and one of the dads is on the eastern part of the United States, Eastern time, it's already late for him, I cannot, in good conscience, start a show any later than we already started. So the Chad Dad show will hopefully be pushed to next week. I haven't gotten full confirmation, but most people are on board, so that won't be happening tomorrow like I was planning. I don't know that I had announced it because I don't think I had confirmation until today. Oh, if I could stop yawning, please. That'd be lovely. I don't think I had confirmation until today, so I don't think I mentioned that we were definitely having it. More that I was trying to put it together. But whatever the case is, I do apologize. That will likely be next week, and I will solidify that up as soon as I have buy-in from everybody on it. So that is that. However, Drexel will be over tomorrow, and we will probably do a movie night later in the evening, maybe at midnight, or 1. I don't know exactly what time it is. I will try to announce it plenty ahead of time, and we will still have a movie night for sure. We may do video games or something chilled out on the other channel, the Rekieta Media channel. again, all of it, whatever happens will be announced. But we will not be here in my house in time to record a show at 11 like normal. So there's that. I'm glad you brought up Funimation Con Franco Miranda, because I am so happy that Funimation is doing a virtual con that is free to attend with Q&A panels. I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. And I think that, people may have lots of questions for Funimation. I don't know what questions those would be. I don't have any real questions for them that I think that they would answer. So I won't be there. I'll be here. But Funimation is really interesting, and I appreciate something about Funimation. And I'm going to try to get a video out about this tomorrow, a short one. But in case I don't, right now, I want to send my heartfelt gratitude to Chris Sabat. That's right, you heard it here. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Sabat, whose name on Twitter was for a while, voice of Vegeta, until I think Japan got mad about that. But I have to thank Chris Sabat, because while the whole world is pulling a bitch up, the proverbial bitch up, and all of these shows are acknowledging that they have white actors voicing black characters, Indian characters, Asian characters, left and right. They've got all of this whitewashing of the voices of these characters. You've got Cleveland on Family Guy. The guy who voiced him stepped down, bravely stepped down. You've got The Simpsons pledging to no longer use white voices. I have to thank Funimation, and specifically Chris Sabat, who I think his should be voice of blacks, right? He should be voice of blacks, because Chris Sabat happens to voice a lot of blacks, a lot of black characters. And he has bravely decided to stand up against the tide of cuckery and hold on to his black roles. He's not stepped down. He's not apologized. And I have to thank him for doing that. Thank you, Chris Sabat, for standing with us. For standing against social pressure and opposition, and bravely being the white voice of black characters. Like Mr. Popo. Who are the other ones? Like Garterbelt, right? And for always sticking with that important, all-important 70s jive sort of approach to blackism. It's brave, it's stunning, and we owe him our thanks. So, I am hoping to put together the video about that tomorrow, but if any of you do happen to go to Funimation Con, Funimation's virtual convention, and happen to have a question, I guess that's the one question I would ask Chris Sabat. And it's less of a question, it's more of just a debt of gratitude and my expression of solidarity with him and his choice to bravely voice black characters all over anime as much as possible. It's fantastic of him, and he should get all the praise in the world for it. So there you go. Chris Sabat, voice of blacks, very, very strong. Good job, Chris. You're an inspiration to us all. That being said, I think it also bears repeating. There's a musical album being advertised on YouTube by D.O.G. Beerus. And that is Lemoyne Sings the Greatest Hits, or Lemoyne Sings the Hits. You can find that on DOG Beerus' channel. I retweeted it earlier today. Make sure you've checked that out. But I'm like voice of disabled or whatever. Chris Abbott is voice of blacks, and I am voice of lungless or something. But you guys can check out that Lemoyne Sings the Hits if you want to do that. Oh, I got to get on live chat here. Someone mentioned to join the Killstream karaoke. I have been invited to it. I'm not entirely sure what that means. Ralph gave me little bits of details, but I'm just checking to make sure I'm available that day and see exactly what he's expecting. But I suspect I will end up participating. Tarek Twilight says, "Hey Nick, have you heard about the Shitty Media Men lawsuit?" Oh wait, I'm trying not to do that. That blank Media Men lawsuit, list creators being sued for libel, and the federal court just ruled to let it go forward. Yes, I have, and I will be covering it very soon. That is a very interesting sort of thing going on. And it's amazing, right? You can see the difference in how public figure standards are applied right on the face of it. Right on the face of it. That person is a author and relatively famous within their circle, and the federal courts are like, no, of course this person isn't a public figure. So, nobody knows. Anyone who can tell you definitively who is and isn't a public figure, just automatically, it's never that simple. Ty Beard wants me to sing something. Once, twice, 3 times a conslut. So that was for you, Ty. You're welcome. Thank you for your contribution to the show. Joseph Kerwin says, Games Workshop hit Arch Warhammer's channel with a word mark strike. Changed his channel name, but the strike remains. He's worried challenging the strike would make GW try to prove protection of trademark by striking other Warhammer fan works. He should be worried about that. It's a stupid move by Games Workshop as far as U.S. law is concerned. Games you can't trademarking Warhammer. A Warhammer is an object. It's a word that's in relatively common use. No distinguishing characteristic about the word Warhammer. I mean, I know when I'm talking about the brand Warhammer what I mean, but that doesn't mean that they own the word Warhammer from all other branding. Because that's like owning a diving board or I don't know, chef knife or something. You can't own a common object as your property. Plus, no one, again, there's no customer confusion here, right? No one goes to Arch Warhammer's YouTube page and thinks, I'm getting Warhammer from Games Workshop. Like, that's not a thing that exists. So I think it's ill-conceived. But I did drop a message on Arch's video, and I said, if you want to talk about this at any time, I'd love to chat. I've been a longtime fan of Arch, and so I'm gonna follow up with him. He suggested to contact him, and we'll exchange some information, have a chat. So maybe we'll get Arch on the show or something, or I'll do a recorded show. I don't know. I like him. I think he's I know some people have problems with him, but some people have problems with everybody. So hopefully we'll get a good chat with Arch at some point in the future. Next. Vox Day these are all the little things that's in the description. There's some things before the interview, which we're going to do in just a minute. Vox Day they filed their response to Patreon, right? Patreon has of course sued Vox's patrons, Owen Benjamin's patrons. I don't even know who it is. I'm not 100% familiar with exactly what process is going on. Patreon is suing some of its customers because they raised arbitration claims after Patreon made us all promise that we would arbitrate things. They went to arbitrate things, and it's going to cost Patreon millions of dollars. And they're like, but wait, we don't want that. We don't want to spend millions of dollars doing what we forced everyone to do. So then what Patreon did was they went in and they changed their terms of service after California passed a law saying they would have to pay up front. And so now they're trying to state that everybody didn't agree to do the arbitration that they forced on everybody at first because they changed their terms of service. And now they're trying to sue them all in court to get a preliminary injunction preventing the arbitration. The interesting thing is the arbitrators disagree with this, or it appears so. So I'll be following up on that very soon. Actually, hoping to have a conversation with Vox tomorrow to see what's going on and to see, kind of get a perspective on it. And we may set up a show, either live or recorded, I don't know, to talk about that, depending on if he's able to talk about it. And by able to, I mean, of course he's able to, but if he can do so without compromising anything in the suit, that would be the deal. If he's not, of course, my goal is not to ever impact anyone's suit with doing an interview with them. That's not, so if he's not going to be able to talk about it without having some sort of impact, I'm not going to put pressure on him. But I would love to hear what's going on there. I think it's a really, really important lawsuit because it is one avenue which we do have to fight back against some of this stuff. Not everything, but if deplatforming someone equals, and it kind of does, if Patreon deplatforming me means that all of my patrons can't do business with me, and we have an arrangement where they provide money, I provide content, and that Patreon's just merely a middleman payment processing subscription service, then their deplatforming me interferes with my ability to contract. And therefore, that could be tortious interference. And that's what's being explored in the arbitration suit right now against Patreon. And that type of litigation through arbitration has been done before against, I believe, Indiegogo. And, they want these rules until the rules are enforced. They're all for them. So that's another thing that's coming. Sean Tillman says, yes, I bought Anthem. Now stop screaming at me, lol. Started listening to it today. Got to the light bulb part in the council and died laughing. I didn't finish because I had church tonight. I'll finish up after your stream. Yeah, man, it's really a good book. It is. It is. Do a live show. I mean, it's not up to me so much. It's not up to me as much. So, not Anthem the game. Angry. Get a bookstore. Get a bookstore. Oh my God. What even are you? No, just kidding, buddy. Yeah. Anthem the book by Ayn Rand. Fantastic read. It's also short. It's a good one. It's a good one. Now, guys, I have to I have an email or a voicemail. That I feel like maybe I should, I don't know if I should play it. I kind of feel like I maybe should. But let me see. Where is that? There it is. How long is this thing? Can I... Let me download it. Just a second. Let me see how long this is. I don't know. Do you guys want to hear a voicemail? Recorded voicemails are weird. Hold on, I'm pulling it up right now. I'm going to preview it because I think it's pretty short. Oh, I can't play this. God damn it. Okay, here's a problem with this. It's got a cell phone number in it. So, it's got a cell phone number, so I've got to figure out, I've got to mark it so I can mute it. Just a minute, just a minute. Okay. Okay. Okay, here we go. What I will do, here's what I'll do. I'm going to play it. I will pause it when he starts saying the cell phone. I'm going to do this in the boomer way because I'm going to be extra, extra careful. I want no numbers, you know, like to come across. Be as careful as possible. I will pause it. I will mute. I will play through the cell phone number, and then I will, you know, unmute. So that's what we're going to do. Okay? Here we go. Here we go. This is very, very... I think you need to experience the tone of what's going on. So here we go. Watch. Somehow I'm going to screw this up. Like it's just not going to play now. Are you serious? What the? That was dumb. Hold on. Let's try that again. Come on, VLC.
Hello, this is Ron Toy. Saw a call out from Ty Beard on Twitter saying you'll be in touch with me soon. So I wanted to be proactive about our communication and call you first. Myself.
Okay, just a second. Oh, hold on. VLC's annoying. There it is. Okay, perfect. All right, here comes the rest of it.
Can't wait to have a discussion. Bring my attorneys involved. And also, everyone else that we have that's going to line up and absolutely destroy your client. So, love that you called me out on Twitter. Can't wait to talk. Bye.
Did you notice that? Did you notice what a lying pile of garbage he is? Absolutely destroy your client. Bye. Oh my God. I think he finished while saying that. So there you go. You know, again, Now, before I get 1,000 questions asking me about that, can it be used in court, blah, blah, blah. No, I mean, not really. There's nothing in that that has any impact on the case, right? That's useful for just putting to bed the lie that Ron had any desire at all to resolve this stuff. Because that's what he's been saying. Oh, a conversation could have occurred. Now, Ron, of course, called Ty. And when was this? Looks like March 2nd. He didn't reach out to Vic in this one. He reached out to Ty. And does that sound... This is still early on in the process, right? This is still really early on in the process. And can I just point out that Ron has no intention, at least not from the sound of it, of just having a discussion, you know, coming to a conclusion, or whatever he's talked about. It's completely a lie. And this is the thing, right? This is the whole purpose. It was a Saturday morning, if I remember right. Anyway, so that's what he's gonna do. And now remember, at the time, I believe Ron bragged about reaching out. Or whatever it was. Now, again, calling it on a Saturday morning or whatever isn't really reaching out to a law firm. But, you know, that's okay. And also, he's got another problem. He mentioned lawyers. And not speaking for Ty here, I don't know what their process is. But if I call someone and don't get them and they call me back, we'll frame it that way. If I call someone, opposing party, and they call me back, leave a voicemail, and in that voicemail mention lawyers, I'm not calling them back. I'm not going to do that because I can't really have a conversation with that person due to my ethical obligations to them. I would need to talk to their lawyers. So I don't know if that was part of the calculus of Beard and Harris, but I can imagine that makes it complicated for them. They can't actually call the cell phone number that he sent back. They can't really do that. They need to know who the lawyers are. But, you know, who knows? I don't know. It's a mess. RZEQDW says, your boy Soban got a base and Texas pilled chick sending him lewds. Tonight, we celebrate. Oh yeah, buddy. Based in Texas pilled chick, Soban, masks off for Harambe. My hat's off to you, sir. And I will drink a very good whiskey. A whiskey that is probably too good in your honor. So this is the Boss Hog Whistle Pig Soban. If I see you in Texas, if I get to see you in Texas, I will share some with you. There you go. There you go. It's well, I hope you guys got, hope you guys got something out of that Ron voicemail. I don't think I've ever heard it before this evening. It was really creepy. So, all right. Suppa Sandwich says, Nick, my boy, I've been working a ton of overtime, and your streams have helped me chug through them. Just wanted to show my appreciation. Your shows are great, man. Also, have you heard about the Smash Me Too crap going on? It's wild. Yes, a bunch of Smash Brothers players got Me Too'd just today. It's everywhere. Like the Me Too thing is all over the place. I was reading more about the Warren Ellis stuff today, and I'm still mind blown by this. I'm still mind blown that people are going after a guy for just trying to pick up women. Like, that's all he did. In fact, one chick called Warren Ellis, and I don't know this guy. He could be the worst guy on the planet. I don't care about his work, whatever. I don't worship. They like deify this guy. He's just some jackass who wrote some stuff that people liked. I mean, that's just, at the end of the day, that's what he is. But that being said, this one of these comics chicks or whatever called him a effing Bluebeard. The total Bluebeard. Do you guys know what a Bluebeard is? I didn't know the reference. Despite all of my literature degree, it's not worth anything. So I had no idea what a Bluebeard was, but I looked it up. It's an old French folktale. It's about a man who murders his wives to move on to the next one. So this guy, Warren Ellis, is just, what he does is he, writes stuff, and then a bunch of groupies, because I'm sorry that this is derogatory towards you thoughts. You're just groupies. Like, you're hovering around a male famous person at bars and conventions wearing tank tops or whatever, and you're like, you're so smart and brilliant and cool. I would just love to pick your brain. No woman has ever wanted to pick a guy's brain, according to the guy. So, but they do this, and they hover around, and they hope for a little bit of attention, and that attention can turn into opportunity in their career. Which is fine. It's fine to do that. But when you show a dude a bunch of attention from young, maybe attractive females, I don't know if they were attractive when they made him. Maybe he's into fat chicks. It doesn't matter. If you show a dude a bunch of attention from females, he might eventually try to have sex with one of them. And that's okay. 'Cause just don't do that. Just don't have the sex with the guy. It's amazing. He's not been accused of forcing himself on anybody that I can tell. It's literally just, well, I thought he was so smart, and then he wanted to see my tits. Well, yeah, of course. That's what men do. We like them. We want to see them, or whatever. Honey, it's not even you. It's not just you. We like many different varieties. It's okay. But eventually, you reciprocate that attention, and then the guy's going to say, well, why don't we just, I've got some time, you've got some time, we've got this hotel room. What are you doing? Let's grab a bottle of wine and make it an evening. And here's the critical part. You just say, nah, buddy, I don't like you because you're a slovenly looking monster who draws comic books. I don't think you're attractive. And no one ever did. And anybody who ever did, lied to you about it was lying. And so I don't. Just say that. We're going to live. We'll be okay. If you just tell the guy that you don't actually want to have sex with him, because he knows you probably don't already. This is a secret to lots of men who are successful with women, is that they just ask a lot of them and play the numbers game. That statistically, one of them will eventually say yes. And so after a while, especially a guy with some sort of sexual proclivities, or how do I say it? A productive man will just have asked a bunch of women. That's it. And, if a guy is really looking for it, he'll ask 20 women in the same night. And if he gets 19 no's, he's fine if he gets one yes. So just say no. And then you weren't predated upon. There's nothing predatory about that. Used his influence. No, you used his influence. You used his influence and you got mad when he came to collect. Women. This is for all of the women empowerment that's going on like all the time, and women power and positivity and autonomy and everything. The second there's a guy who has sex with one of them, suddenly they had no power to just say nope. And we're talking like messages them, hey, you want to meet up for a date? Oh, yes. I mean, not a date, right? Like, I'm just going to read your comics, lol, or whatever it is. What is it? Just say no. Women said no to me all the time. It's not that big of a deal. Oh, God. I've said no to at least one woman in my life. I think they could manage it to one weird... What does this guy even look like? Let me see. Oh my goodness! How could they resist this man? I had no idea. I take it all back. They would be helpless in the power of such raw, unbridled masculine sexual energy as on display here. Look at this. I undo everything I just said because look at that. Let's zoom in. I mean, what woman could resist the wiles of this Adonis, this statuesque Grecian deity? Right? Never mind, women, I can see why you are powerless. Why you're powerless against the consensual sex you had with Warren Ellis. Damn. Oh. Maybe I should check these things out before I go off on these long-term pontifications. I gotta research it first, I guess. Because, whew, I'm steaming up over here. Oh my God. Stupid Queer is the name of the person who sent this. It's not me. So don't be mad, YouTube. It says, hey, Nikki, have you read Medium's article on why Chauvin may get off his charge? Lots of eye-opening stuff. After reading it, I think Chauvin should get his job back. Nope, he shouldn't. It's maybe Michael Brown all over again. Hashtag I kneel with Chauvin. No, I haven't read it, and it would take a colossal amount of information for me to suggest that Chauvin should get anything less than a prison sentence at this point. No, but no. All right, Diablo says, hey, Nick, I know I'm a day late on this, but what are your thoughts on the Chaz chop finally being cleared out? Well, I'm sad, and I'm glad that it's being cleared out at the same time. I laugh that it's because they got close to the mayor's house. So, you know, suddenly that protest is getting a little too close to home, and she's not giving up other people's property, or he, or whatever the mayor even is. I don't even know. So, but you know, that's what it takes. Mithran Emrys says, when will the groupies and ring rats from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s start coming forward? I mean, can you imagine how many Me Too's Bret Michaels has, like, waiting for him? Just all of them. Just all of them. What's his defense going to be? Look, I looked like a woman. It's not my fault. I just told them I was a lesbian and I was in. This is terrible. But yeah. I mean, that's the thing that we're finding out. This is the most eye-opening part of Me Too. Is that you didn't have to be Bret Michaels, right? Like, you didn't have to be that guy. All you had to be was this. You didn't even have to be in a cool profession. Like, if you wanted to slay groupie crevice all day, you didn't have to be like this super hot 80s power balladeer with a sensitive side, but he's also mysterious. You just had to be like a, you know, average looking guy who did literally anything in his life and had some sort of public appearance or convention circuit concert, you know, any sort of thing where you had interactivity. That was all it took. There you go. Oh, all right. Should we get into this? Into the document. I do say this is one of the finest whiskeys I have ever drank. It is absurdly good. It is absurdly good. Okay. Squally. Squally says, things I don't understand, and please explain if you could. Why constantly give Ron these platforms when it's obviously just free and cheap shots against Vic, who cannot respond? Also, where's the artwork, Boomer? I don't know if you're talking about my show or if you're talking about like the Knuckleheads and DA Talks or whatever. I'll respond why I do it. And I don't do, like I said, I'm not doing all of them. If I do any of his other interviews, it will be portions of them because I don't want to hear him say the same things over and over again. But the reason I do it is because I want as many people as possible to see the falsehood of Ron, to see that he's a liar, and to remind people that what he's saying doesn't reflect reality. That's what I want to accomplish there. As for why he goes up on, or why people invite him on the shows, I mean, that's their reasoning. You'd have to talk to them about it. I think people are just interested in Ron. I think that's the thing. They're interested in this little halfling weirdo. So, yeah, I don't know. That's my thoughts on it. Where's the artwork? Okay, so I asked my art guy for it, and he sent me like 4 different pictures that he used to make the background, but he doesn't actually have the background itself. I'll send you what he sent me with the exact same wording, and maybe you can figure out what it means. Sebastian K, this is the topic. What are you talking about? Read the description. There were some small things before the Ron stuff, and now we're about to get into the Ron stuff, but I had other things to talk about. So, yes, because I can work with that. Okay, I'll send you that, Squally. All right. So, with that being said, let's get back into the video here. We're at 2 hours, 46 minutes, 42 seconds. Now, this is 5 hours and 18 minutes long. I don't know if Ron stays through the whole thing. Here's my pledge to you guys. If it starts to peter out or something, I will not be going through the whole thing, because I'm really not interested in the dying down, falling action of an interview where everybody's just kind of like conversing it out. And I don't want to dedicate like 1 million shows to this, but let's get back to it. Here we go with the conversation. Oh, I got to close this up to make sure I don't accidentally somehow play a cell phone number. Okay, here we go.
So in my analysis of that video you put out there, because in your response to me, you said, look at this video and analyze this, and I did. And this is why
they're talking about here, as a refresher, they're talking about the video of Vic doing the coffee line. Ron mentioned, well, have you seen the video where he asked the dads to leave or whatever? He does the coffee line as Tamaki from Oran Host Club. And it's important to note that the dad portion of it is from the show. Now, I don't think the dad line, if we're full transparency and honesty here, I don't think the dad line is lifted directly from the show, but it's an adapted joke about a line that leads into the scene, about how I don't think my dad would like it, is what I think, or I don't think my dad would like me drinking coffee or something like that, is the girls' line about this whole scenario. So the dad thing is part of the scene. It's incorporated via a joke, and everyone who has watched the scene and knows it knows what is happening with that. That's a reference, an allusion, if we're getting literary, back to the show. I don't believe it's a direct quote from the show, but it's alluding and summarizing what's going on in the scene up to this point. That's the whole point of it. Yeah, and I know in context it's an obvious joke as well. It's an obvious joke as well in context, but I want to point out that like it's not just a contextual joke to what's happening in the convention hall, where obviously like, oh no, I'm going to say this goofy line that's got some underlying energy to it or something like that. It's also a nod directly to the dialogue of the show. So that's what's going on there. No sauce. It's referencing the show. I'm telling you. But anyway, here we go.
And again, I wasn't picking on you. It was when I was analyzing your personality.
You should have picked on it. What?
Do you perceive?
Oh, there we go.
The people's reaction in that room to how Vic handled the situation is correct or incorrect? So was Vic's handling of that, okay, or is it wrong for the people to think it was okay? So there's a whole room full of people who find that is an okay interaction. It was fine.
Yeah, and so that's a great thing, and this is how I would approach it.
Just answer the question.
Now, if I'm looking at it from a fan's perspective, it would probably be very fun and exciting to see kind of that another person getting excited because of a role in a show. So I get that moment, kind of like seeing the Beatles or Michael Jackson, or, if I got to meet Charles Lindbergh or,
You are the most dull person I have ever encountered.
Something like that. I would have an emotional reaction. So I'm looking at it from that paradigm.
If you got to meet Charles Lindbergh, you'd have a reaction in your pants, you weirdo.
It would be exciting. If I'm looking at it from a paradigm of an actor, I get it. You're making an emotional connection with the group. There's a bunch of people. There's a bunch of emotion. So, we have songs by the Beatles that if you apply it today, it's kind of questionable when they're talking about the age of the person that's in the room, right? But so I can see it from that side.
No.
But if I take it from an outside perspective, like a parent, if I had a child and I don't know the situation, I could see that as inappropriate, especially if you apply the principle of like, there's implied authority in a sense and respect because of this person's role as that character, right? So if you take out what he does.
Wrong. It's a voice actor. Ron, it's a voice actor. Most of them should be they make the same as the person who makes your coffee or cuts your hair. Most of them actually do cut hair or did. They're just a voice actor. In anime, it's just a person. The authority. No. Nobody, they don't have any authority. If a voice actor told me to do anything, I would laugh at them. You just talk over a cartoon. Why would I listen to you? You're just a guy or a horse or whatever. What is happening?
Does for a job, if you put in a school teacher in that position or a police officer or
that's not, it's a voice actor
or any other job outside of a voice actor, and they did the exact same thing, what would that room then how would that room react?
But they're a teacher or a police officer aren't acting out a scene that they're known for. How would that? How would that?
If a school teacher was to do that exact same thing, would the room react the same?
Yes. If the school teacher was either a voice actor or cosplaying as Tamaki. Yes is the answer. If they were like a famous Tamaki cosplayer standing in front of a crowd watching to see how they Tamaki cosplay and they do that scene, yes, they would react the same way. Absolutely. You can't decontextualize it. Well, look. Here's the question for you. When a police officer says, freeze, put your hands up, someone does it. But when you look at it from the outside perspective and you replace the police officer with, say, a voice actor or a school teacher, would the person react the same way? No! It's not a cop. Why would they react the same way? That doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about? Well, if the president orders the attorney general to file a motion in federal court, the attorney general does it. But if you replace the president with a homeless guy or a CVS employee, would the attorney general respond the same way? No! They're not the president. It doesn't make sense for them. That's like saying, if your wife says, hey, get up in these guts, and you react in a certain way, and then you replace your wife with, say, Bill Cosby, are you going to react the same way? Well, no. I'm not going to. That's not the same situation. What are you talking about? What kind of broken thing are you? Nova Zero says yes, no, or I don't know. Not open answer. Arg, can you show us that bottle you're drinking again? Can we put like a gallery or shelf of drinks you're going to try or have? You know, so we can drink ahead because Ron, this is the bottle. This is, I don't know if you want to drink along with this. I bought it special. It's very expensive. But it's great. It's a great one. Okay. Would
a parent react the same. So when you look at that, it's up to a debate, right? It's
no.
How does somebody feel about it?
No, again, it's not up to a debate. This is not a debate topic. What you have presented is idiocy. And then you wrapped up the idiocy in stupidity, and then you dipped it in mental handicap. And now you're trying to feed it to someone. That's not a debate. That's not a topic. That's not anything. That's just dumb.
It. And he must have felt something, because he did have to justify it, saying, well, people online are going to say X, Y, and Z, but you asked me to do it. So then this is the matter of debate, right? You have an opinion.
Ron, I jumped out for like 30 seconds.
You're back.
Button. Yeah, I accidentally hit my bookmarks bar because I was trying to figure out the topic.
How about this one? Thank you, David Garfinkel, for reminding me. If you're at a convention and you are an overweight voice actress and you're in front of a crowd and you're cheering or whatever and they're cheering, and some overweight voice actor or other anime adjacent fatso grabs a paddle and wants to spank that giant set of ham hocks attached to your legs or whatever, and you replace that guy with just a person on the street, is it the same thing? If you take it out of that scenario, is it the same thing? God, No. No. Ron, if you grabbed the paddle and said, I'm going to hit you to Monica, rather than a non-harmful anime-adjacent convention person, she would probably cower in fear and cry for days because she knows what kind of monster you are. And it wouldn't be fun. Like if say, I'm with your ex-wife at some sort of gathering, and we'll do this. Ron, if I'm with your ex-wife at a gathering, a very public, this is not an intimate thing, very public gathering, and there's a TV and it needs to be turned on, and I say, I'll grab the remote, and I pick it up and grab the remote and turn it on. Nothing happens. Everybody's normal. But if you're there, if you replace me with you and you say, I'll grab the remote, your ex-wife runs for the hills because she's terrified that you will beat her again. How about that? Is it the same then? No, of course not. It's completely different.
To my computer, I gotta be away from it.
I've been trying not to touch it, but I have a little time tracker.
Boomers.
Fucking boomer. So here's where I said in my analysis of this, because I kind of got the understanding of where you were going with this.
God, I wish Ken would have heard that. I wish Ken would have heard that lunacy.
And correct me if I'm wrong. So from an outsider, if I sent that video to a friend of mine who has no idea what the fuck anime is,
yes,
and they see it, they might go, "Man, it's a little weird. What's going on here? It's a little weird." But when you add the context to it, it makes sense, and it removes that. I don't want to say sexual impropriety. It removes that what would appear to be inappropriate from the picture. Right. When you add the context, just like when you add the context to the Beatles songs.
Right.
It was the 60s or whatever. It was the 60s and this and that. Because you have to look at it in context, just like we try to do things now. You know, like, for example, all the people who get canceled because of blackface 20 years ago.
Right.
That was it okay? And I know it was a joke, but you can't apply the same standards to something 20 years ago.
Right.
And, you know, you can't apply this being inappropriate without understanding what's really going on. You know, I could, you know, and this is something that sadly happens. Police will show up to a guy walking in the park with like a 5-year-old kid, and they'll arrest him, and it's his own kid, because some random person called the police and said, "Oh, it's a person trying to kidnap a kid." Right. Well, we don't know the whole context. So from the outside, you see this old guy walking with a 5-year-old girl. You're gonna go, "Oh, this person's doing something wrong," but in reality, they're not.
And that's where it's interesting in that sense, is because when it gets posted on a public forum like YouTube, it allows for people to make their own determination, similar like when my
and their determination can still be wrong. And worse, it can be a lie if they intentionally misrepresent the situation. Just because it's on YouTube doesn't nullify that context. In fact, the context is plainly apparent from the YouTube descriptions and titles and the framing of the shot and the fact that he's at a convention talking about it and that everybody in the room laughs and is happy. All of that is plainly apparent in the video, you dummy.
Divorce record or my text messages with Nick.
Yes, please contextualize your beating of women.
Or whatever they call them, DMs.
Yeah,
came
DMs.
out, then people are allowed to make their opinion on that. And so
But they're doing that in context. They know, Ron, that you're talking to me. So they know that you've got mental problems, okay? They get it. I'm happy to tell them about it. And they know that while you're talking to me, that you have a couple goals or needs because you're clinically incapable of anything else. One of those needs is control. Another one of those needs is an emotional venting release. So what you have with your DMs with me when we went through them, it was obvious. Something, and I never know what it was, but I was always looking for it, would trigger you. That trigger would create your need to have an emotional response and then a subsequent need to exercise some narrative control. And in doing so, you would try to simultaneously frame the conversation where you are victorious and you are right and good, and I am bad. And in that context, you would also add insults to get your emotional release. It's pretty simple. Lots of people would do stuff like this. You're the only one who would do it compulsively that I've ever met. But that would go on. And then later, once you realized that I was going to broadcast them to the world, you started to modify your tactic and change it to be a little bit more of trying to focus on framing yourself as the hero of your story. And then at the very end, you tried to refocus because you realized the other thing wasn't working. And you tried a conciliatory approach where you were complimenting me on videos that I did that you agreed with. You're trying to create this illusion or bridge of common ground. Oh, and you also had in the back of your mind, which is not a far distance from the front, you had this idea that I might say something that would help support your predetermined conclusions about my participation or my responsibility. Because at the end of the day, you were always hoping that there was something where I would give up the secret by having some sort of emotional or visceral reaction, probably to one of the insults that you were using. The problem with it, Ron, is a couple-fold. One, I don't respect you. So if you insult me, I don't respect you. It's not going to bother me. I don't respect your opinion. I don't respect your knowledge or your assessments. So you can insult me all day and I'll just dismiss them as completely unqualified. So that's your first issue. The second issue is I figured out a long time ago, within moments of your first message, exactly what you're doing. So I wasn't going to ever say too much because I have the ability to not respond immediately if I don't want to. I know that you lack that, so I have to explain it. And then finally, this ties back into the first, but I wasn't going to react to you in an emotional way. Partly because I don't respect you, like I stated, I guess is the best way to say it. And the other part of why I wasn't going to react to you in an emotional way is because I was on guard. I'm talking to you. You are the enemy. Now I know that you had thought about flying up and attacking me or whatever. So I certainly wasn't going to do it. One second, guys. I got to do something behind the scenes real quick so I don't accidentally I had a Discord window up, and I didn't want to accidentally show DMs from some glitch. But no, so it was never going to happen. So everybody can figure out these contexts in our discussion. One, they know the context, but if you're able to remove anything about that, then I guess it would matter. But here I am narrating the messages, so it puts that context and my own bias context firmly in place. And that was the point, is to add my biased perspective to it. It was my ability to reply to you. Brianna Rama says, what are your thoughts on mandatory face masks in public? I think they're garbage. Kansas governor just passed a mask order. Is it legal? I have no idea. Is it worth fighting and disobeying this order? Few counties have already stated they will not enforce. Fighting for you, disobeying for you, depends on if you want to get fined. If you want to get fined and make a statement and make a fight out of it, sure. If you don't want to pay for it, no, it's not worth it. That's a judgment you have to make for yourself. Is it legal? I don't know. None of the stuff that they've been doing should be legal. I mean, they're telling you where you can go, what businesses you can go to, what work you can do. None of that should be legal. But is it? I mean, courts are saying yes to some of it and no to other stuff. They're telling you can't go to church, and some courts are like, yeah, of course you can't go to church. Wait, what? What do you mean? Mither and Emma says, OMFG, Ron's stupid little interjections are so condescending. You tell he isn't actually listening, just making noises so it sounds like he is. Yes. He's already deciding how he is going to respond to it, to hit his talking point. Yes, I agree. That's great. Yeah. All right, my turn, Mithrin.
When we circle back to it, it isn't my job to determine all of those factors. I'm allowed to make an opinion based on what I see. And
your opinion cannot be that he's assaulting someone. That's not an opinion. That's a fact statement.
And that's where I have a problem when you talk about a lawsuit that is about somebody's reputation, because if he is openly stating in a crowded room that this potentially could bring me some level of disdain, and then continues to do that type of behavior, whereas he could have done the line from his table or from the front of the room without interacting with a fan, it would not have gotten the reaction. But
he wouldn't have been doing his job, Ron. He wouldn't have been doing his job. You are saying that cuckscent matters. Ron, cucks don't matter. You don't matter, and your cuckscent doesn't matter. The whole thing about being a cuck, as you are well aware, is that you don't matter. That's the whole point. That the woman has so little respect for you that she will have sex with another man in front of you while making fun of your micro pee-pee or whatever it is. That's the point. And that's why cuckscent is a joke. Because, let me let you in on a secret, cucks. If you are a cuck and your wife says, can I bang Leroy? And you say no, guess what she's going to do anyway? Because your opinion doesn't actually matter. Your consent is for your benefit. That's the secret of the fetish, is that the cuck's consent is for the cuck alone. I am okay with this. Not for her. And certainly not for the bull.
As a professional, Ken, for instance, say there was something you were going to do that maybe could cause you some level of ridicule, right? And you choose to continue to do that behavior. but then later say, well, I'm going to sue because people are saying X, Y, and Z.
Those are unrelated things. They're unrelated things.
How are you going to defend your position when you have all of this history of admitting that this is going to cause online situation?
Well, so that depends. That's a very multifaceted question, right? Because, and I'll take you for that, right? So I'm a therapist. I work with people and do all my stuff. Outside of therapy, like I was telling these guys before you joined, and I've said before, I thrive on humor. I need it to get through what I do.
Right.
And it's just how I live. So do I tell inappropriate jokes? Damn right.
Damn right.
I do all the time.
Yes.
Obviously. What? This is a problem with the affirmative. Yes. Yes. Ron just said, yeah, tell inappropriate jokes. But Ron doesn't actually. Ron, in the middle of making a point that he can develop this idea that the joke is so inappropriate that this man must be canceled, is saying, yeah, absolutely, tell inappropriate jokes.
I'm definitely going to tell everybody looks at my memes.
Don't look at my...
Your memes? Has anybody ever found an inappropriate meme from Ron that is anything from Ron that has personality at all? Not Sadox says cuck lives don't matter. Thank you. Thank you. Very important to remember.
Text and search history. That thing's going to burn when I die.
Yes.
Set to my heart rate. If it goes off, it deletes everything.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
That doesn't mean that.
I mean, that joke wasn't that funny. I like you, Ken, but I think Ron is fluffing you a little bit.
That just because I say those things,
right?
That you can't, I say these things in my personal time. I say them, whatever, and or I say them in a form that isn't, one where that, because it would be hard to take that in case I come back to my employer and go, well, he's doing this. Well, it's not impacting his clients. Now, if we apply the similar logic to the video, right?
Yeah.
Is I would think that me and you would both agree that the vast majority of people watching that video would be people who are anime fans or would be familiar enough with at least who the person is, who Vic is, and what's going on. So they will understand the context of the conversation.
Correct.
Okay. So if you do get an outsider like you or me coming into it, and I even said in my reply to you that if it was my daughter, I'd probably be like, I don't know, but
yeah,
I'm here. I'm here. If anything wrong, I'll walk up and punch him in the face.
Right.
But
what if you weren't there and you just saw it a day or two?
I trust my daughter to make. If it was, I trust my daughter to make the right decision. There's a room full of people there that if the person's hand slid to somewhere it shouldn't have, or there would be a hell of an outcry.
Right.
It didn't happen. The person who went up with Vic didn't appear to be feeling uncomfortable, like it didn't feel like it was inappropriate. They were giddy.
Yeah.
And so they were but it didn't come off inappropriate where when you take the picture of who it is, like what's going on in the environment. That's why it's very hard to judge things out of context.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't put the right framing around it, just like, you like going back to, your deposition, you said, I don't care if people call me a pedophile.
Right.
There's a frame.
That was also a lie, you pedophile.
The context of that. Well, what was going on in the deposition? What was going on to lead to those questions? So if people calling it you now, well, yeah, it bothers me, but like you said, I'm not going to go sue someone over it, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
actually, I mean, he kind of said that, but he also kind of said he would try to sue people over that if it were not for the counsel he received from everybody telling him not to.
You have to put it in the right framing. So I think for the most part, the things that, like that video you pointed out, I think it's not as significant of a harm as it's been made out to be. And that's where my concern, as far as maybe I don't know, maybe if you're perceiving it differently than me and everyone else is. And that's not saying your perception is incorrect or anything. I'm just curious to it because, you know, like I said, if I understand, you know, even not understanding the line, I get the people in the room, the mood, it fit. It didn't come across to where, you know, because if it was, say, a much younger person, I could see where you're crossing the line. That person looked like they were mid-teens or older than that.
No, it's still not, like, I refuse to give ground on this. It's still not inappropriate. It still is just the line. Now, if you have an 8-year-old who likes Oren Host Club, I might question you as a parent, and I'm certainly going to question the 8-year-old's tastes or whatever. But I will not, I'm going to disagree with Ken on this. I don't think that it's inappropriate. It's all in the context of convention fun. And parents, the younger the child, the more likely it is that a parent is in the room and giving some sort of, you know, consent to the action going on. Like that's the whole thing. It's still just a line from a show. And Vic isn't pouring coffee in his mouth to then French kiss a child and spew the coffee into their mouth. That doesn't happen. It's not real. It never was real. There's no entertainment that it will be real. It's just a scene.
You know, putting in the right thing like that. I think, you know, maybe we're misunderstanding the context of a lot of these situations. And I think that's where these perceptions of impropriety have come across over the years.
And
again, I know Ken is being diplomatic here, but no, the perceptions of impropriety aren't actually perceptions of impropriety. When Ron wrote the text messages, let's be clear on this. Ron had no idea that that video existed. Period. 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 I will say it again. When Ron wrote the text messages, he had never, ever seen that video. He had no idea that it existed. He was not aware of the context. He wasn't aware of any backlash or rumors. None of that existed. That's not why Ron wrote the emails or the text, the Twitter messages. None of that has anything to do with this video. This video is Ron desperately grabbing for penises to hold on to and come up with something that he can put out there to try and justify his actions retroactively. That's what it is, and we've got to stop pretending what he's doing has any validity. Gotta knock it off.
That's where my point about this lawsuit being frivolous is that while it's a big misunderstanding in those aspects, right? Like what my pointing to those videos for was not in a way to show that he was guilty of anything. More about that it was frivolous, because if
it's not frivolous, because up until your defamatory statements unrelated to the video that everyone else on earth is okay with and still wasn't brought up in the lawsuit, unrelated to all of that, your text messages are about something else and they caused damage and it's a lie and you knew it was a lie or you didn't care whether or not it was a lie. One of those two things is true.
And that's where I've been trying to point on this, is that when you're suing because of damage to reputation, and I've said this a couple times, yet you have...
And you've been stupid in all of them.
all of this and you continue to
All of what? All of what? His reputation wasn't damaged. We can measure damaged reputation. One day you have a job. Then your reputation is damaged and you don't. Poof. One day you have a contract to appear somewhere. Then your reputation is damaged and then you don't. Poof. You notice the intervening act? Now, if this video, which it does, predates having or acquiring that job in the first place and predates the termination of the job or the contract by years, then that video must not have affected his reputation. It's pretty simple. And if you say it did, you have to prove it.
do actions that you know are going to potentially damage your online reputation, you immediately...
He didn't actually say that. That's not what he said. He said there are a couple of weirdos who will take this the wrong way. That's massively different than, if I do this, it will damage my reputation. Singling out stupids and saying that stupids will take this in a certain way, even though all of you and everybody else won't, isn't saying my reputation is going to be damaged. In fact, it's acknowledging the statistical reality that if you are, I don't know, a nun and you cure cancer with your tears or whatever, someone will be like, oh, you shouldn't be crying so much. Like, that's it. Like, that's how the world works. Someone's like, a person cries too much. Somebody's going to take it the wrong way.
You know, they talk about the Streisand effect on the situation because it is so out there that there is no way to prove what is the thing that actually...
The Streisand effect comes later. Even if you're going to argue that bringing the lawsuit is the Streisand effect, you must necessarily understand that your reputation is already ruined for you to bring the lawsuit. The Streisand effect matters when you haven't suffered damage and then you try to bring up the thing to silence the person. And then the bad stuff comes out and everybody suddenly knows. That's the Streisand effect. The Streisand effect does not occur when your life is already sledgehammered into the dirt. Once you're already sledgehammered into the dirt, the Streisand effect isn't a thing because your reputation is already dead. I'm trying to come up with an analogy and I just can't. I just can't.
Actually cause the damage. And that's where my whole point in this situation is that it's...
But the Streisand effect, to whatever extent it existed on Vic, and it's actually, from what I can tell, is pretty small. It's actually a pretty small effect. It didn't have any impact on his reputation, except for maybe a positive one. Because a lot of people who have now learned about Vic like him. His Twitter followers went up. The downside of Vic's reputation only exists inside the core of the convention runners, which is an insular group of fellators who sit around hand-jobbing each other over how great their shows are and not actually doing anything to make them better for the fans. Okay? And so you've got this clique of people who think that they run some sort of industry. They don't. They're just people putting on a show. And if anybody else had any time or energy, guess what? I'm not trying to denigrate the work that you do, But voice actors aren't that hard to get a hold of and book. Like if you have money and you have a show and you have a location, you can get voice actors to come to it. That's it. I mean, this isn't like, these aren't in demand people. I don't mean to denigrate the work that you do, because I know like Cress and Ron Hop, they do a lot of work to put on the show. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is, if someone else wants to put up a show, they actually can. Like anybody can do it. You don't have to be an industry insider. You become an insider very quickly on the convention circuit by owning a convention. Because you have resources that the voice actors desperately need because their job doesn't pay it. You're nobodies, Cress, but you're able to book Vic, right? I mean, that's that. And if you were nobodies with $100,000, you'd be able to book probably just about any voice actor you wanted. That's it. Can you pay their airfare and their minimum, and do they have the weekend open? And can you show that your show will get sufficient exposure to them? And that's what the minimums are for anyway. They're gonna show up. Of course they will. They're practically starving half the time. Anyway, I forgot why I was talking about this.
Open to debate. Nope. I'm not going to judge the situation if it was right or wrong.
You did. You literally did.
In my business, say hypothetically, as a loan officer, I'm telling people that they shouldn't buy in this neighborhood because
that's illegal.
Because of X, Y, and Z.
Ron, there are specific regulations saying that you can't do that. As a loan officer, Ron, if you're like, look, you don't want to live there, a bunch of white people live there. Or you don't want to live there, a criminal element lives there. Wink, wink. Yeah, that's a violation of your licensure.
I know that I shouldn't do that, but if I continue to do that, I could potentially have a problem on my hands.
The problem would be that you have a licensure oversight board that has put down to law that doing that is illegal. That's a huge difference between a voice actor doing a line that 3 weirdo fujoshis who can't get Vic to sign their yaoi are gonna take whatever he does negatively. If Vic eats the brown M&Ms first, he's racist for killing off the brown ones. If he eats them last, he's racist for not liking the brown ones. That's what these people do.
And that's where this situation, if he was really concerned with his reputation, why do the thing? Because if you're saying where everybody's recording because everybody has a cell phone.
Because he is concerned with his reputation, and he knows that the people who think like you're pretending you thought are idiots and few, and that the majority of people will see his interaction the way it's meant to be, positively, and his reputation will benefit from it.
People are going to say this online, and I know that, but you keep asking me, so I'm going to do it, right? Well, if you know they're saying these things online and your reputation means something to you, why continue to do that behavior?
Ron, if you continue with that beard, graying as it is, and you don't bleach it blonde, your reputation's going to diminish. And now that I'm saying it, people are saying it online. Someone online has said that you need to bleach your beard blonde or your reputation is going to diminish. If you don't if you don't do that, I mean, your reputation is going to go in the tank. And now, if you keep doing that, you're a if you keep your graying, weird, not quite salt and pepper because it's just got a strange pattern going on beard, you're a pedophile. Now we know. Now we know. That's how it goes. That's literally the reasoning you have, you dummy.
Well, I think what matters here is, so if we take the context of that video, so the video and other interactions like that, like you said, could be perceived as inappropriate, and people have poked a few people.
Mithrin asked if I can run that back. Did he admit to violating the law, or was it a hypo? It was just a hypothetical. It was just a hypothetical. He says, if I do this, I can almost promise you he does. I don't know that, but I have a hunch.
Historically have poked issues at it and said, this is wrong. It's been a few people. It's not been a huge public outcry. Come forward to January of last year, this stuff comes up. Other accusations come up.
No, I want to correct Ken here. This stuff didn't come up.
Other very significant accusations come up. It's no longer a coffee joke from an anime. It's people are accusing him of sexually assaulting them, of doing other things, of pedophilia. And the context is removed because now a vast majority of the people seeing this are not familiar with anime or familiar with Vic.
I actually disagree with what Ken is saying here. I think back in January, the vast majority of people seeing it were absolutely familiar with Vic and were absolutely familiar with anime. And I think actually most of them were familiar with that video in particular. And those who saw it, I don't think that video came up until much later. And if we're gonna be talking about this, that's not what was in the IO9 article. It's not what was in the Anime News Network article. It was not. That video and the other videos like it weren't part of anything until much later. And so I don't agree with Ken here on the timeline of how these things worked out and when the outsiders started looking in. And I would challenge that. I know, and again, I know he's being conciliatory, and I'm not picking on Ken. I'm really not. I like him. I think he's a good dude. What I'm saying, though, is that he's being conciliatory here, but he's obfuscating a little bit the reality of what happened. The damage came from people like Marky and Monica coming out with very specific allegations of sexual assault to bolster general accusations of creepiness. Now, creepiness is an opinion. Creepiness is nothing measurable. And, I find Ron Toye living to be creepy. So as long as he's alive, I will find him creepy. That doesn't mean he should remedy that. That would be a little bit too far, I think, to satiate my need for him to not be creepy. So, again, I just disagree with Ken on this. I know what he's at least trying to do here, and I don't think it's the right thing.
So you now no longer have that very important context. So that harm now has arrived, legally and mental health wise too.
Right. And that is a valid concern. But when you look at the timeline and who he chose to bring as defendants, the people or anybody that he wants to talk about, all of that happened prior to our first tweets or our first statements. And that's the part that shows why this lawsuit was dismissed the way it was, is
Ron Toye's first tweet occurred prior to Vic being terminated from Funimation. And I believe Monica's did too, but even if it didn't, Monica's discussions with Ron and the investigation from Funimation occurred prior to Vic being terminated from Funimation.
when you have his public statement come out where he admits to some level of inappropriate, where he has to reconsider his interactions with fans.
By the way, he's not admitting that it's inappropriate. He says that people are seeing it in the wrong way. And the whole like recommitment to God and all of that, and seeing a counselor, I have a feeling that that had something to do with losing all of the jobs more than it had to do with some introspective reflection that he was actually doing the wrong thing when he wasn't. But that's me. That's my opinion there. Ron has taken it in a completely different and self-serving way.
That's part where it starts to turn to where you start to look at the past behaviors and why the lawsuit was the problem. I don't mind him coming forward. It's up for debate, but this is where I tie back to it.
It's not up for debate, and you don't mind him coming forward so long as he comes forward and admits to being a pervert that you have categorized him as. That's what you don't mind. You absolutely did mind him coming forward and saying, I didn't do this.
It isn't about if it was right or wrong in a sense.
No, it's always about whether it's right or wrong.
With this history, does it make sense to bring a lawsuit where it is your job to prove that everyone has been lying about you?
Yes, if they've been lying about you.
And in order to prove it, everybody says of this thing about evidence. And it can't just be, hey, I didn't do this.
Actually, despite what Law Twitter has told you, that is evidence that he didn't do it for the purposes of TCPA. That actually is evidence. Party statements denying factual circumstances are evidence. How in the world do you think testimony works?
Right? Especially when it's not a very emphatic no.
It was absolutely false. It was a very emphatic no. You just can't read 10 lines of text. You stopped at 2 because that's all you needed to finish into that tube sock.
It's been wishy-washy and then admitting that I did the things, but my intention was this way, and the other person had misrepresented it or misunderstood it. That's where the lawsuit part of it becomes the core factor of why this, in my opinion, it was such a tumultuous thing, because while everyone can see a person who maybe did some things that weren't illegal or bad, maybe it was questionable, but could have
wasn't illegal, wasn't bad, and actually wasn't questionable either.
Been corrected.
Didn't need correction.
This has been going on for years, right? So
yes, and none of it needed correction. This is the thing that everybody keeps missing or glossing. Not everybody, but a lot of people keep missing or glossing over. Is that Vic's activity at conventions didn't need correction because it wasn't actually bad. And it wasn't out of the ordinary. It's not weird for a voice actor or actress to hug someone who comes to see them and pays them money for 20 seconds of conversation. That is not weird at all. It's part of the thing. All of them do it. All of them. Even people who aren't getting paid, like Ron, will hug people who come to see their personal fiance. It's on video. All of them do it. His activity didn't need correction. He just, unfortunately, decided to capitulate to you idiots. because you were his friends. Well, you weren't, but Monica and Jamie and all of those people were his friends. He thought, because you lied to him for years, because you're disgusting monsters who, rather than just say to someone, I don't actually like you. That, by the way, all the respect to Sean Schemmel for just telling Vic, I don't like you because you're a Christian or whatever. At least you know where you stand. These disgusting people just lied to his face for a decade or more, and they pretend that that's okay. So that when the time came and they decided to no longer lie to him and say, we're not your friends anymore, but without doing it so overtly, and he's like, oh my gosh, my friends are saying I'm doing the wrong thing. I better let my friends know that I'm going to do the right thing now because they're my friends. And they certainly aren't trying to ruin my career. They certainly aren't trying to have me thrown out of the industry. They certainly aren't trying to have my reputation ruined and separate me from my fans. None of that would be happening because these are my friends, and friends would approach you in a completely different way to handle a situation like this. Friends would let me know. So friends must be doing this in good faith. That must be what's happening. So then he capitulates. And then you rub his nose in that urine stain. And that makes you even worse.
So if we focus on him as a person, he kind of did some things that maybe he probably wishes that he didn't. And just because it turned into something maybe he didn't want it to be, but maybe someone else did. Cool.
No, you turned it into that.
We can get past that. Humans make mistakes. We all fuck up. Everybody's got skeletons.
He didn't make mistakes. How do I word this? I don't know. I don't know other than it wasn't mistakes in the way that Ron means it. They weren't mistakes. And he's treating this very casually. Like, huh? Well, you know, they asked for their steak medium rare and you gave it to them. Well done. Well, we all make mistakes. And next time, you know, when you remade the steak, it was medium rare and everything was great. Oh, well, they asked for no lettuce on that hamburger and it came out with lettuce. Oh, darn, we'll just give them another one. And you know, that's a $6 mistake that you just made, and shoot, we'll move on, we'll forgive you. It's not the same thing. And he didn't make them.
Everybody's an idiot. It is what it is. The part that sucks for him is then he files a lawsuit that
sucks for you.
He has to prove. He has to provide evidence, and it's not just.
Not at this stage, by the way. That's something that's also overlooked. He doesn't have to prove it at this stage. And the proof is 51%. It's preponderance of the evidence standard. That's what would go before a jury if this actually gets past TCPA. All these dummies keep pretending that Vic has to prove this stuff at TCPA. He doesn't have to do that. And that's the problem that Chup had. And look at Ron Hopp's face here. Nails it. What is this dummy saying? Is that Vic doesn't have to prove this, and Ty was talking to Chup and saying, you're asking him to prove this, but this isn't he doesn't have to do that here. We're not required to prove it. That's one of the lines from the transcript. We're not required to prove it here. We're only supposed to show a prima facie case. That's it.
Just in a statement, and I know that they talk about burden, like Nick absolutely destroyed in any way how it actually works, on how evidence works for a defendant and how burden shifting works.
I actually didn't destroy this at all. The funny thing is, all you dummies said I destroyed it, and I was right.
Works, because that obviously didn't play out the way he thought, and it won't, because it's not how it works. We've gotten to a
what I said's only in the statute. It's only in the statute. And by the way, your lawyers wrote down basically what I said in their briefs as well.
Place where it didn't have to go, and because of ego. And that's the part that sucks, is did it have to go through this far? Did it have to cost him nearly $1 million? No, It absolutely didn't.
What? Cost him nearly $1 million. What is Ron even talking about?
But if you say hypothetically, Karen, you know you didn't lie about something, and somebody brings a lawsuit against, say I try to sue you, and I have this history, right? I have a past that is somewhat documented, and I can say I didn't do these things because I'm like.
No, that would be a lie, Ron.
Like, for instance, in the thing with my ex, the affidavit, I don't have any police records. I wasn't arrested. There was no prosecution. It was an affidavit, and there.
Affidavit.
And so there's.
Affidavit is a Bible joke that I'm not going to make.
There's no actual substantiated abuse besides me not being afraid to admit.
No, there is. There's substantiated abuse. You're missing out the court order, Ron, that says the court finds that family violence occurred and will likely occur again. That's substantiated abuse. No one said you went to jail for it. No one said that you're a criminal abuser. No one said anything other than you're an abuser. It's substantiated. It's in the court documents. You could try and deny it, but all of that would actually be a lie or a misrepresentation of the court. If you said, I didn't do these things, you'd say, here's the court order saying he did. He had the opportunity to object to it at that time. He had the opportunity to appeal, and he's going to now say, well, but I just didn't want to do it back then. I'm sorry, Ron. That's one of those little mistakes, I suppose. But now you have to accept the fact that that is the record. That is the fact.
I fucked up and smacked somebody with a remote and threatened people. And I'm not going to.
The court found that domestic violence occurred.
Thank you, Ken.
No, they didn't. The judge said but if you look at it, he said that they were giving the okay to give this protective order against me because they had it. So there.
Thank you, Cress, with the again, nailed it. Ken's like, it's in the document. I mean, it's in the document.
There wasn't ever a determination. And literally, if you can show, and that's where people say I try to justify things. In that paperwork, it's already been shown that I didn't debate whenever this happened in my child.
Hold on. Give me a second. Let's see. Just a moment. Where'd it go? I'm gonna, if you can show, rung with me. So let's just go ahead and let's just figure this out. Oh my goodness. I know I should have, I wasn't planning on having to pull this up, but we're going to do this. We're going to do this because I think this is very important. Mm-hmm. Hope you guys. Oh, where is it? Where is it? I gotta find it. These are backwards and they're not labeled very well. Arte art. Here we go. This is this one. Here's this one. Court, having examined the pleadings and allegations of the applicant, finds that applicant's sworn pleadings and allegations show the applicant was in a dating relation with respondent and that applicant has requested a protective order for herself and her children. Ron Toy is subject to the continuing jurisdiction of the court. Not subject to any continuing jurisdiction in any court previously. Applicant and respondent had a dating relationship as defined in the family code. Court finds that there is a clear and present danger of family violence unless he is ordered to do or refrain from doing certain acts as shown below. Court finds that there is an immediate need for the following protective orders to prevent family violence and to protect applicant and her children, and that the orders are in the best interest of the applicants and her children. Issue the following protective orders: prohibited from committing family violence, blah, 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 blah. So that's the first one. That's the first one. Oh my goodness. Go away. This one isn't this. Okay, this is getting to be too long. I'll have to find it. Damn it. I'll have to find it off, probably off screen. Or off stream, because this is getting too long. Too long! Petition for intervention. Oh, is this it? This is the retraining order being continued here. Or continuing, but... Okay, I'm not going to keep going, I guess, because I'm going to have to sit and look through this forever. Oh, wait, maybe it was in here. This is so riveting and exciting. All right, I'm not gonna keep going through this because it's gonna take too long. It's that was the first one, but it's in here as well, somewhere else I believe, but I haven't looked at these in a long time, so I'm not gonna be able to find it quickly. Never mind. Too much time. Burning time. Mithrin Emrys says, the judge found it happened. You admitted it when you didn't object. You admitted it when the protective order was issued. Saying it happened was likely to happen again. You hobgoblin. So much for owning mistakes. I mean, you said it best, better than I did there. So we'll just stick with that. Matt the Beast says, I really hate how literally everyone in favor of cancel culture never thinks it will happen to them. Even if you try to make them think by giving them a hypothetical where the blatant lies cause them to lose their jobs, they go, but I didn't do it. I did spend too much time on it. I told you. I get obsessive over finding a thing.
Custody case because I didn't want to. I wanted to own up to my shit.
But you're not owning up to it. Now you're saying you didn't do it. Did you do it or not? Did you do it or not?
And the judge put a protective order against me for a year. And then that was dismissed. So
when protective orders are no longer necessary, they are dismissed. Yes.
Do you guys know that that was dismissed? Because Law Twitter showed that documentation. You guys have seen that all that stuff that people said against me, the judge dismissed it because...
Well, that's usually how those protective orders go.
So that's where,
like that.
when the judge says it was found, it was because in that conversation, I didn't debate it. It wasn't something that I was ever in trouble for.
He's lying again. And he's not lying about not debating it. He's lying now by saying that the dismissal means that it didn't happen.
There was no police records. The same thing that Vic's liked to say, that there was no police records. I've never been arrested.
The same thing Vic liked to say. Oh, but Vic did it though, right? Right, Ron?
I don't have any of that stuff. It was
it's not about the police records, though. That's what my point on that is.
In that situation, that we have affidavits currently, and you're saying that you're asking me in my situation. I'm telling you that if I
Ron is frustrated here. Ron hasn't been this argumentative the entire stream. So this situation still bothers Ron. You want to know why? I'll tell you. Because Ken's not here. And I think Ken will agree with me. Ron still won't own that he was abusive. He's just not, like, that's clear, right? He's not owning it. He says he's better. He says that he did the work. He says that he put in the time. He acknowledges that it's a process. But Ron, right now, to the world, is telling you that it's not actually happened. I mean, it doesn't say that it happened. Well, it does say it, but it says dismissed later. So there wasn't any evidence. Or blah 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 blah. Ron desperately wants the world to think that he didn't beat that woman or threaten those people. I wish I had that recorded call. That would be great.
I try to sue, if I try to sue you, you could try to point to a lawsuit or a child custody case as your reason why you formed your opinion. I would lose. It would lose the lawsuit because I can't prove, because there is documentation that would allow you to form an opinion. Now I could show this and that, but then it wouldn't.
No, you. Let me let him finish his thought.
Ever come to anything because you can form an opinion that you want based on.
No, it's not an opinion that you beat your wife, Ron. It's a fact. It's a fact. It's in the court documents. That's not forming an opinion. And plus, there are no court records. You keep trying to say, oh, there weren't police records on me and there's not police records on Vic. There's not court records on Vic. There's not any records on Vic. That's the thing. There's no record about any of this at all. That's the problem. You have a clearly documented history of abusive behavior. It's documented by a court. It's one of the most court documentation ends up being one of the most, I guess, persuasive pieces of evidence that there is. Because you had your chance to argue it. And so the presumption is you argued it to the best of your ability and lost. Yeah, I agree. Ken just sent me a message, but I agree. that he does.
Information that's out there, right?
No, and I don't think anybody's disagreeing with that. I think the crux of the situation, which kind of got lost in the wide net being thrown out. Like, I mean, when you file a lawsuit, you have to throw out a wide net because you never know what you can catch. That's basically the way it goes. So, like, I can understand being taken aback by certain things that you're accused of, things like that. Some things that were meant for Funimation, you're getting accused of. Some things that were meant for different party, you're being accused of. I get that can be daunting, but at the end of the day, there's still two things that stuck out that were direct causes, or potentially direct causes of harm for Vic. Not necessarily to his reputation, but they could have been catalysts to that situation. Was that Monica brought up the situations to Funimation, which ultimately led to his termination, and your conversation with Chris Latosh, which we only have the text messages, we don't have any other context. Those are the two things that the court has in front of them to make determinations on, but whatever happens in appeals, etc., and that's what the public has right now. And so looking at everything else, like conspiracy stuff like that, that's all like wide net stuff. But when you're looking at it at a more focused spectrum, the cause of Vic's termination at Funimation was because Monica brought these stories towards, whether they're true or not, we don't know. That was something that should have been found out through the process, but we never got there. And then the conversation that you had with Chris Latosh.
God, he's just begging to step all over Cress's comments.
Which, again, something that could have been found out, but we never got there.
And that's unfortunate because, we did try to depose him, which would have been very public, but which side stopped that? We tried to depose Chuck. Who stopped it? We tried to depose Nick. Who stopped it? We would love to give more information, but every time...
Try again, pussy.
We tried, it got stopped. So if we're deposing him...
It got stopped. We were stopped by the other attorneys. Actually, you were stopped by your attorneys. You're stopped by your attorneys, Ron. A motion to quash filed within 3 days automatically quashes the discovery request unless you bring an opposition to the motion to quash and give the court good cause for granting the discovery request. Who stopped it, Ron? You guys didn't oppose the quash. Any of them. Except maybe Slatosh's. And then you got beaten in court on it. The judge is like, no. You can't do that now. Because you tried to do it on the fees. Which doesn't make any sense for Slatosh to be deposed during the fee hearing. Your lawyers did that. I know you want to say Ty's incompetent, and then you talk about, well, the other lawyers stopped me. I mean, I guess. If he was so incompetent, how'd he stop you from doing the thing that you wanted? We tried. Not very hard.
Deposing Chris Latosh. Why do you think the defendant...
That's no different than you and your team preventing discovery from coming forward.
Well, hold on.
Steps.
Let's hold on a second here. Just
no,
before all
don't
that,
hold
let's
on.
pull that back just a moment, right? Because we're not at trial yet.
Right.
We haven't touched a foot in trial, in the actual court case. So what you're talking about deposition.
Siren Jag says, Ron's face is so punchable that people keep trying to spike it with glass vodka bottles. Damn. In Minecraft.
This and pulling in people and subpoenaing and that stuff happens at trial. That's not appropriate for TCPA.
No, actually, you can in Texas. There is a process in why we were allowed to get affidavits and do all the process.
You're always allowed to get an affidavit because you just go ask the person, and if they're amenable to your circumstance, they produce the affidavit. You can't force anyone to produce an affidavit, and of course you can get an affidavit. I can get an affidavit from anybody on earth right now if I just go up to him and say, hey, will you sign this affidavit? That... You have no idea what you're talking about.
You can do pre-trial discovery, pre-trial all depositions, and that's part of why
they'll get TCPA'd by hostile parties. You will spend a fortune going after those depositions if the people want to resist them.
What I was saying, when he deserved better counsel, and the judge asked him for this, did you contact the conventions to get any affidavit? No, they were adversarial to us.
No, and I understand that completely.
Yes, they're adversarial. Call up the party who just breached your contract and ask them to say under oath that they breached a contract, and see how well that goes, you marmot. You have no idea, none, what you're talking about.
Completely, but from my layman, terrible Canadian take who doesn't know much about the American legal system, it's even obvious to myself.
You know way more than Ron does.
The TCPA is a pre-trial. Like, the TCPA is face of everything. Does this case even need to be heard? Because it does this stand up to anything of a prima facie standard? So that, like, even prefaces, like, depositions. Like, it was, like, from my understanding, it's a little bit.
Yeah, half right, half wrong, Cress. Simple. It's not pre-trial. It's both pre-trial and not pre-trial. It is a dispositive motion that occurs before trial, so therefore it's pre-trial. But it's not what they meant by pre-trial discovery. Pre-trial discovery is something before a lawsuit is even filed. You can, in theory, file for depositions. You can petition the court to get permission to do different things. You can do that in Texas. That's a true thing. Now, whether or not it'll get TCPA'd depends on how hostile the other party is and how much they want to participate and cooperate with you. That being said, the TCPA is, according to the Second Court of Appeals, which they're in, not a trial for the purposes of the rules of civil procedure, because there's no jury, there's no voir dire, there isn't really an exchange of evidence in the way that happens at trial or even at summary judgment. Summary judgment is a pre-trial dispositive motion that is a trial for the purposes of the Texas rules of civil procedure. Different jurisdictions hold that the TCPA is a trial similar to summary judgment under the rules of civil procedure, but not Tarrant County. So it's a mess, because it's this dumb hacked in process added to lawsuits. And because of that, it's some of it's not really clear. But for the purposes of Vic's case, in Tarrant County, it should be considered a pretrial dispositive motion that is not a trial under the rules, because that's what the circuit court has ruled and determined it to be. But it has nothing to do with pretrial discovery. That's a separate thing. But you can ask questions. You can, like, even if I can't get a deposition, you and I could videotape a recorded call, and you could swear under oath and penalty of perjury. You wouldn't be compelled to, you just could. We could record all of that, and we could do a deposition, sure. And in Texas, I could petition the court to order you to a deposition if you fall under the court's jurisdiction. Now, that's where things get messy. But with that order for deposition, at least at the time this was filed, I don't know if it's the same after the TCPA was revised, but you could actually file a TCPA. So I go to the court, say, I want to do pre-trial deposition on X party. And the court says, okay, you have permission to do that. They're under our jurisdiction. Serve them with the deposition notice in this order of the court, and they can respond with a TCPA. And then suddenly you're spending, however much money and years, potentially years in court, fighting over this deposition that's supposed to be pre-trial. So this is nonsense. It's been a fun talking point for Law Twitter, but if you talk to actual First Amendment practitioners in Texas, they will, at least prior to the late 2019 revisions to the TCPA, they will tell you that you can't actually, like, if the adversary wants to, they can just TCPA it and say that your deposition is a violation of their free speech and free association. It's a legal action designed to silence them, and they can make you fight for it. And it costs money, and more importantly, time.
A bit confusing because we kind of have something similar in Canada, but not really. It's kind of confusing to have depositions before a TCPA is filed. I understand why it can.
Oh yeah, and the other thing I didn't even get to that Kress was actually very right about here is that the TCPA, the filing of it, shuts down the deposition process because it shuts down all discovery, all of it, outside of motions to the court and then permissions from the court to grant additional discovery. Which they did. Jamie Markey was noticed for deposition, if I remember right. And then, wait, she might not have been noticed. Maybe it was one of the Funimation people. I don't know who was specifically noticed. If there wasn't a notice for deposition, it was just the discovery requests were in for Funimation and Jamie Markey. And that might be what I'm actually remembering, is just their initial discovery requests. But they Funimation filed the TCPA 2 or 3 days prior to that running out. And that stopped it for Markey, who was served the latest of the bunch. Yeah, he's doing his pretend laugh here.
Can happen, but it's a little weird that happens, but it does happen from time to time. But my understanding is if you're looking to subpoena people or like make the court force somebody to give something up, that has to come from a pretrial motion, which takes place after a TCPA is decided.
Not entirely. It's just that the TCPA can completely shut it down.
And that's the part where the confusion has come in on not our side, the other side, because it is not required. For instance, I could do, say if I wanted to sue Nick, right? I would have to go through some proper procedure, but before I ever filed a lawsuit, I could show the court that my intention is to file a lawsuit and I need to do this level of discovery. Now the court can say, and this is before TCPA is done, the judge will give you leave to do these things as long as you present enough information to justify the behavior, right? Now, that's if I was going to sue. Now, that's the casting of a wide net, right? So then it's like, okay.
No, that's not the casting of a wide net. That's a very specific request for one person that you intend to sue. That's the opposite of a wide net. What are you talking about?
I want this, this, and this. I need to depose them, and here's why. And so it could have been done. TCP.
No. Let's see. Let's see. I don't think we even have pretrial discovery in Minnesota. You would just serve the person and go through. We don't have a TCPA either. We don't have an anti-SLAPP statute at all, so it's not really that big of a deal. I'd have to look into it. It's not something I've ever had to occur or have had to deal with because all of my cases don't involve that level of issue, and most of my cases are criminal cases. But Joral Navarro says, say this for the people, Law Twitter in the back. Dismissing a protective order is not the same as dismissing a case. Side note, have you seen Funny's own DBS Broly premiere where Ron is clearly there with Monica? No.
PA is a part where it gets to where you're starting to evaluate some pre-trial stuff, pre-TCPA hearing stuff.
He's literally making up things by mixing words together. The guy has no idea what he's talking about.
Because once you file the TCPA, discovery is stayed, right? So that's where they bragged about having 6 months head start on us and produced the wizardry of Kiwi Farms level of investigation where we took the time to pay for...
Damn, Ron's slamming on the Kiwi Farms.
Professionals. And it's like, this is the unfortunate part where I get so frustrated because it's like, if you're in a fight with somebody and...
Pay for professionals? What does that mean? Do you pay people for your affidavits or something? Like hiring lawyers, I guess, is paying for professionals, but I don't see what you're talking about paying for professionals got you here.
it doesn't give you the satisfaction if they're hogtied. Like, I don't want to fight you down there. Like, get up here. And
what are you talking about?
Much more and like, I have nothing to hide. Like, we gave
lying, you liar. Oh my God. They could have done much more discovery. What? You didn't produce even what they asked for. You didn't produce even what they asked for. What more discovery could they have done? While they were waiting for other discovery to come in, Funimation filed the TCPA and shut it down. What could they have done, Ron? I don't know if you're stupid or lying or I mean, stupid, yes, but I don't know if it's
our Lord. Like, let's go. Like, that's where it's. I have to like say certain things and all.
Let's go. Put out the evidence, you liar. No one has stopped you. It would have been entirely, and still would be today, entirely in your benefit to put it out. What are you talking about?
Blah, I hate that shit, but I will.
No one forced you to say that.
In the end, that's why it's like I wanted full transparency, because when you have nothing to hide.
Lie! You didn't want full transparency. You paid a lot of money to have those people's names hidden. That wasn't transparent. It was also completely ineffective, you idiot.
Let's go as far as it's got to go. And then if at the end, if something is determined that maybe I said it was maybe rude or whatever, cool, I'll pay the fucking fine, whatever it is.
Maybe rude. The guy can't go a minute without mitigating his behavior.
Or I'll apologize for saying something mean, if that's what the judge says, but...
It's not saying something mean. It's lying about someone being a sexual predator. You disingenuous pile of trash.
That's where it's like, let's go, let's show all of our cards. I didn't delete anything. I don't have anything to hide.
You didn't show all of your cards. You're just flat out lying.
Let's see what happens.
So do you think it's fair that the in order for the TCPA is filed, whatever have you, blah blah blah. They didn't think that they might not. Like, they thought that they had enough to get past TCPA motion, but do you think it's fair to to go to the judge and say, hey, I need this information, I need leave of the court, I need this, I need that, and blah 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 blah, and the judge says, well, you should have done that before.
See, that's the part where people get hooked up on the word fair. And that was something that was really drawn in on this.
Just answer the question.
My deposition was the word fair a lot.
Well, I'm just saying from a justice perspective. I'm not saying from one way or the other. I'm saying from a straight down the line middle. Do you think that it was justified to say, because we're talking about TCPA, because you just explained it very, very poignantly, that it's like, hey, I have to show that I have reasonable cause to go and do this stuff. In a lot of people's opinions, on both sides of the fence, Ty did that, and the judge disagreed, which is up to the judge. It's up to him completely. But do you think that was the right decision?
And this is part of it. So if we're playing baseball, right?
Ron, I don't like you that much. But the answer to Cress's question to you is yes. Of course you think it was the right decision. Not... Well, let's talk about baseball. What are you talking about? Just yes. Of course, that was the... Speaking of baseball, that was just a middling fastball over the center of the plate.
Everybody knows, in essence, fundamentally, that you have a baseball, some gloves, and a bat. There's some bases. There's an outfield and infield. There's a fence, right? There's the basics. If somebody shows up with a fork and a horse, and you're like,
you're taking Monica to dinner. Oh, so nice of you to think about her.
What the fuck like, this isn't the sport we're playing. That's where people can have a difference of opinion, but that's literally what we experienced. And so when we talk about fair, it was not fair to Vic to not have a lawyer, to not know how the proper process should go, to get discovery when you have 6 months a head start, to get all the things you need, to then start the lawsuit and say, hey, here what it is. But the question that should be asked...
No, they had all of that. Judge Chupp didn't want to see it. That's...
Is why didn't he do those steps? Why didn't he depose anyone prior to filing the lawsuit with us?
Because if he tried to depose you, you would have TCPA'd him then. If you hired the same attorneys. Because Lemoyne would have known you could do it.
Why didn't he get affidavits from people before?
Because you can't force people to give you an affidavit. I can't say this enough. Even friendly people, you cannot force someone to give you an affidavit. And, oh my God, try in a pit of vipers to get one mouse. This is my analogy, since Ron gets to do analogy. Pit of vipers are Jamie Markey, Monica Rial, all of that. Get one mouse, some innocent other VA who's like, actually, you know, I didn't, you know, none of this happened. Try and get that affidavit. Try it. When they know the moment they speak up at a convention, they'll be canceled. Imagine getting an affidavit.
Before TCPA was filed. Why didn't he do it before he even filed the lawsuit? Why didn't he gather information? Why didn't he ask cons to because you, as a lawyer, you can get an affidavit from somebody before a lawsuit's filed.
Only if they'll give it to you, Ron. And in fact, when he got the one from Slaytosh, you guys still maintain that he somehow beat it out of him. Jesus criminy. And you know why they all think that Ty had to beat an affidavit out of Slaytosh? Because the idea that these con owners would involve themselves in litigation opposed to Funimation is so ludicrous as to be unbelievable. They hold two positions at the same time. It's you could get an affidavit from the cons, or when you get an affidavit from the cons, it must be either produced under duress or a direct forgery, because there's no way a con would produce that affidavit.
So this is again pointing back to why didn't he get competent counsel? Why? Because trust me, if it was speaking from a logical perspective, though,
if I'm talking to a convention, like as an owner, right? If I don't like somebody, yeah, and I cancel them from my convention because they got accused of murder, for example, just an extreme, yeah, and then their lawyer comes to me and says, I want you to submit an affidavit as to say to why. I'm like, from my perspective, it's like, get a court order. No, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So you have people that are not,
and the court cannot order an affidavit. They can't. It can't do it. They cannot order you to speak. They could order a deposition. Again, ignoring the problems of TCPA, non-cooperative witness still, all of that stuff. A deposition, hostile depositions are not always that productive.
Not necessarily on victim.
Because with a hostile, sorry, I'm completing a thought. With a hostile deposition of a non-party, you don't get the opportunity to hang them on their words. So you just say, no, no, no. The entire time, they never have to say anything that's compromising to them. You can ask the best questions in the world. They're a non-party. Their statements likely aren't going to come into court. You're doing the cross-examination as part of the deposition. And you get to ask them anything. All they have to do is say no. Or just not answer, or say, I don't remember. And you're not going to get to object. You're not going to get the judge to order them to do anything because they're a hostile witness. But a hostile witness that you don't get to hang with the inconsistencies of their statements. You have to try and hang someone else.
Side because they canceled him from conventions because they believe X, Y, or Z. Right. Like the logical step there is that they're not going to comply with Ty or whoever asking nicely for an affidavit saying why they canceled, because I could turn around as a convention owner and say the sky's blue, so I canceled him.
Yeah, that's true. But that's where it goes back to if you can't get.
So he acknowledges that everything he said about the affidavits is a complete lie.
If you're not this tall to ride the ride, you don't get on. So That's why this was dismissed at TCPA stage.
No.
If you can't get if it's your job to show that we lied, and you can't get this level of...
It's not their job to show that you lied yet. That's the trial. You still don't understand, and you're still being lied to by people who mostly understand the TCPA. You don't have to show that they lied. You have to assert that they lied. You have to present some evidence that they lied. That evidence is a statement that it's a lie. The evidence is, this is a falsehood. This is a false thing they said about me. This didn't happen. None of this stuff happened. Those are evidence of the lie. That's it. And that, along with evidence of damages, evidence of the identifiable party, and evidence of publication. And the amazing thing is, despite Judge Chupp having in front of him reams of evidence of publication of an identifiable person, he somehow, and Vic's statements that it's a lie, but he somehow determines that they didn't produce evidence of publication of an identifiable party, of it being a lie, or of it causing damage. And I will suggest humbly that there's plenty of evidence of damages. It's alleged right in the pleadings. And for the purpose of the TCPA, fact statements from the pleadings of the plaintiff are taken as true. Can't say it enough. Fuck chopped up.
Of information, don't bring the law.
They had the information. They had sufficient information to bring the lawsuit.
It doesn't add any benefit, because if you can't expect to just cast a broad net at that point and expect...
There is no evidence at all that they cast a broad net. The most accurate criticism I can think of about the broadness of this lawsuit is that tortious interference is really hard to prove against Jamie Markey without conspiracy. And the same with Funimation. Tortious interference is really hard to show against Funimation without either conspiracy or vicarious liability. That's the broadness of the net. But if they're part of the conspiracy, or if Funimation is vicariously liable for the tortious interference and defamation of Ron, Monica, or Jamie, then it's not that broad of a net, and you kind of have to allege that stuff. Because if you don't allege it, this is the other problem with how TCPA works. Let's say they just allege defamation against Markey and Funimation, and then in discovery find something that makes them think, oh, we've also got TI. Well, guess what they can do again on the amended charge, on the amended pleading? They can TCPA the next step and halt the entire lawsuit again. So it's a question. Do we go with what we think we have now, or do we try and find stuff and risk an additional pause in the future? These are questions you have to determine. It's a strategy question. Clearly, we know what strategy they picked, but they didn't cast a broad net, because they would have sued Jesse Pridemore. They would have sued Arms Girl. They would have sued IO9. They would have sued Anime News Network. Now, ignoring the fact that all of those things are out of state, they would have caused all sorts of trouble. You can maybe bring IO9 or Anime News Network into Texas based on their publication, but it's not really targeted towards Texas, so it'd be really hard to do. All of those things, you could try and do that. You could try and get all these people. But they didn't. They didn't actually cast a broad net. They didn't sue a bunch of conventions in Texas, which they maybe could have done that too. They maybe could have sued Kamehacon as part of this. They could have, rather than trying to bring in Slaytosh to get Vic back to Kamehacon and put Slaytosh on as a positive witness, maybe they could have sued Kamehacon as part of the conspiracy. Rather than Ron tortiously interfering with Kamehacon, maybe, just maybe, those text messages show more evidence of conspiracy than TI. Here's the problem. How'd they get the text messages? Because Ron didn't disclose them in his discovery. Remember that transparency thing? Ron is a liar and didn't produce the text messages to Kamea in discovery. Those came out because of me. And then Ron was forced to admit publicly that they existed. But that wasn't part of discovery. Those came from Kamea. And now let me just imagine if you had sued Kamea as part of the lawsuit for conspiracy, would those text messages have ever come out? Of course not, because Ron's a liar who violated discovery rules. I'm confident saying both of those.
That the other side isn't going to say, wait a second, you're asking for this type of communication that isn't justified at this point. And that...
Oh, I'm sorry. It's all just... Notice this weasel word here. Justified at this point. Wait a minute. You're asking for specific communications in discovery. Discovery is not split up into pre-TCPA discovery and post-TCPA discovery. There is no at this point under Texas discovery rules. Communication is either justified or it's not. You guys didn't produce it, and you levied improper objections to the discovery request. And then because Funimation filed the TCPA, those didn't get to be challenged because discovery was stayed.
That's part of where it goes into it. Now that I've seen how law works, law sucks. I'll be honest with you.
Yes, but not because of what you've seen. You're an idiot.
With you. It's very frustrating. It takes fucking ever. And it's like...
I hope it takes longer. I hope it takes another year. I hope it ruins the rest of your hair.
There's guidelines.
And you break them. What do you care about the guidelines? You violate them constantly.
Like boxes. And it's like, if this is the due date...
You don't like boxes, you like penis.
Is this date? Fucking turn the shit in by the due date.
You didn't! You didn't do that! You didn't do it at discovery. You also didn't do it at appeals, and your lawyers didn't even ask for the extension. They had to be reminded by the appeals court. Oh, by the way, you have briefs due. Whoa!
This never get into IP law.
Oh, God.
and so it's like...
You're out, all right. I just said you liked penis.
I want more than nothing to put two people together. Let's battle this shit within the parameters and see what happens. But then there's all these other, I can ask for an
You did the opposite of that.
Exception here, and I can ask for that.
You asked for those exceptions. You asked for them. Improperly, might I add. Maybe on advice of counsel, but it was not actually correct advice.
It's annoying. But that's part of the law that I had no idea happened. So fair is hardly ever an aspect of the law or a decision, and it's...
No! Fair is always an aspect of the law unless the parties don't follow the rules. That's the thing. If you don't follow the rules, then it's not fair. If you do follow the rules, then it's as fair as it gets. I gotta stop. We're gonna do chats, and then I gotta watch some movies because I am going to burst a blood vessel listening to this absolute moron prattle on for any longer. All right. Let's do justice chats first, and then we'll get into super chats. Malik Foxon says, he wanted to talk, he said. What does destroying your client have to do with conversation? Remember that. all of this stuff about Ron, all of this stuff, and his first response, this is before any lawsuit is filed. Ron says, my lawyers are going to destroy your client in court. Does Ron really think everyone else around him is a moron? Jesus H.G. Christ, this man is so insufferable. I don't know how he has any friends at all the way he is. Well, he might not. He might just be lying about it, or they may be in fear of him. Luke says, in Cartman's voice, well, Ron is a cuck. He's a big fat cuck. He's the biggest cuck in the whole wide world. He's a stupid cuck. If there ever was a cuck, he's a cuck to all the boys and girls. There you go. That's for you, Luke. Mercenary X says, Ty just said at the time of this labs that if they win appeal, that the jury will hear it, scorched earth them with nuclear napalm. Also be ready for another whistleblower, possibly from the DOD against Trump. Now this close to election day, yeah, sure. Crusader Saracen says, Warren Ellis was the writer for the Netflix Castlevania adaptation. Dude is a hate boner for the Catholic Church. So huge you can see it from space. Dang. Changiz Khan says, just for torturing time with that awful voicemail, singing Ron's voice to the tune of the Kumite song. Oh, come on. Taking hold of Monica's strap-on. Given strength by Nikki's grifting. 17 to 0 squawk. I loop to survive. Gross. Malik Fox, it says, I'm coining the term cuck spawns. Ron is so cucked he'll respond, yes, okay, yup, damn right, to statements that directly contradict the way he's been acting during the lawsuit. Pretty entertaining. Ethical Dilemma says, hey, Nick, I sent Hard Bastard a super chat to get a hold of you since he has some questions for a lawyer. Hopefully you hear from him and you two can put on a fun show. I had him on a show before. I like the guy. He seems nice. Also, Jesus, the mental gymnastics of Soye sound like the sheepdog is really pathetic. Malik Foxen says, Ron's trying to talk like he actually has fans and knows how to deal with fan interaction. Maybe he thinks he's an expert because his personal fiance has fans and she interacts with them in a different from how Vic does. So Vic's interaction is wrong. Yeah, I also just think he's an idiot. Night of Hopex says, think what really happened is that Ron's ex blew an innocuous thing he did up into abuse, and Ron didn't fight it because they didn't have no-fault divorce in Texas at the time. They needed to justify it. Crazy talking a-hole? Sure. Vicious pugilist? Not yet. Actually, Texas did have no-fault divorce at the time. And would someone take something out of proportion to win at a divorce proceeding? Sure, absolutely. People do it all the time. Ron didn't fight it. Ron's admitted to it several times. Vicious pugilist. I don't know if that's a true thing, although Ron has bragged about his own level of violence. Monica has bragged about Ron's violence because they're terrible people. And, you know, both his first and second ex-wife said under oath that they were in reasonable fear of Ron. I don't know what else to say. I don't think, again, I think Ken has pointed this out. The remote thing, the remote's a joke. It's a funny joke because he has to have control. There are lots of abusive, controlling jerks who don't hit women. They just control them. Or men, by the way. Women control men all the time without physical violence. Because at some point, if they engage in the physical violence with a man, the man might retaliate. And for a lot of women, especially a lot of controlling women who use beauty or manipulation as control, they're smaller, they're petite, they're thin. I mean, a dude who's 210 pounds hits them. It's a Ray Rice situation. Like, so they don't use violence. You don't need violence to control people. With women, the control can come from withholding of sex, withholding of affection, rampant spending, you know, things like that. Putting the husband in financial distress. With men, it can be physical intimidation without actual violence. It can be similar things. It could be putting the family into distress. It could be leveraging control over the kids. There's all sorts of things that can be done without violence. Ron's issue is control, and that's what makes the remote funny, is that it's control. Do I think that Ron like used his wife as a punching bag? No, I think his wrist would be broken. That doesn't mean she wasn't scared of him, though. Architect of Fate says, I'm Ron, and I'm a lone originator in Texas and can't lie because I have ethical obligations. In this interview, I might have violated those obligations. Nick, do you think I violated them? Also, the Kiwi farms are unable to do anything productive. Ron. I don't know if he actually violated his ethical obligations for a correction. Yes, Ron violated his ethical obligations as a loan officer. Did he do it in a way that's actionable? I don't think so. Matt the Bee says, what I wouldn't give to see Ron's fish gasping if the appeals court brings back anything against him and his personal effing fiance. And just imagine all the screeching of, but they can't do that. My professional lawyers said that we're done now. I am withholding hope constantly. I don't want anyone to think that the probable outcome is coming back on appeals. I think they have a chance, and I think they have put out enough stuff to bring at least somebody back for something. But I'm holding off hope because appeals are just an uphill battle. I'm trying not to pump that. You guys maybe have noticed that I'm not like out hyping or anything like that, because I don't want to hype anybody. And if I see people hyping that it's going to happen or whatever, I try and temper that down a little bit. I want it to more than anything in the world right now. I think it'd be the funniest outcome. But Boag says, will you be covering the Arch Warhammer versus Games Workshop legal battle that has started to brew? Games Workshop tried to strike him and silence only him. Yes. Yes. Kidda says, did you see that GW employees sent YouTube an unusual not DMCA legal threat to try and destroy Arch Warhammer's channel? Yes. Unknown Existence says, going by the logic of US voice actors, the Japanese VAs of JoJo should no longer be allowed to voice Victorian-era British white characters either. True. True. No one important says, Chris Sabat's black voices. Janice North, Garterbelt, Martinez, Randy Weber, Maza, literally Officer Black, Tap Dot, Mr. Popo, and Bubbles. Just kidding. Mars Ultor says, in Luke Skywalker voice, say, no, you're lying. It's not Rue. It's not Rue. K9 Affirmative says, how do we beat the common doublethink where people want the police to be abolished but also want them to enforce masks and social distancing? Can't defeat it. Without doublethink, these people wouldn't think at all. Literally everyone says reading is gay. No one important says Ron confirmed for being a two-faced weasel. Kiffin Production says serious question. Oh, thank God. Would you recommend taking the bar with a year of mandatory reading the law and self-study, or would college really help? I'm not aware of what state would allow you to take the bar with reading the law and self-study. I'm aware that some states allow apprenticeships with practicing law firms and practicing lawyers. And that's a limited number of states. Most of them require you to go to college and then to law school. I think an apprenticeship could work. But I mean, I would suggest law school for the purposes of all the research you have to do. And also just adding time to your life. Mr. Leon says, the fighting game tournament Evo got canceled. Where is Sonic's Fox going to tell us about how gay and furry he is now? That's a good question. I don't know. No one important says, thanks for playing that Ron audio. Any amount of doubt, no matter how small, I had of Ron not being a liar just vanished. Two-faced weasel. Vast Game Master says, hey, Nick, what do you think about Angry Joe's accuser running away after being called out? Probably a smart thing to do. I mean, if you lie about someone and then you get called out, a lot of times running away is the best option. Michael Chavez says, hey, Nick, did you know Miles Luna got Me Too'd? Oh, that's too bad. It's ironic given he supported Monica when she went against Vic. Just goes to show how leftists will eat their own. Guys, the list, like if Warren Ellis is Me Too'able, I'm just saying, there's a lot of Warren Ellis happening at Funimation. Still. And there are lots of guys very, very afraid. Probably women too. Very, very afraid of what's going on. But, it's just too bad if Miles Luna got Me Too'd. Oh, damn. Ah, shucks. DCV Titan says, implied authority. You mean the implied authority Ron made Monica use to get hugs, which in other streams he claimed not to like? Yes. Yes. DCV, wait, damn it. Jason of the Great Awakening says, how are we going to deprogram all these weirdos that have been brainwashed with neo-Marxist response? You won't. You won't. You got to outbreed them. Tyler Knox says, will you possibly cover the Evo CEO Joey Queller's pedophile controversy? I don't know anything about it, but sure. I could look into it. Solemn says, what happened to sharing the boss hog at Matsuri? Yeah, that's what I meant. If I see him in Texas, it'll be at Matsuri. Sorry if that wasn't clear. That's where that would occur. It's, I think I know the problem. You see me drinking this boss hog, and you're like, whoa, I thought you were going to share that with people at Matsuri. Guys. This is the one I'm bringing to Matsuri. I would not do that. I said I was bringing one to Matsuri, and I absolutely will. This is my own private one that I bought first and had already drank from. B Woods Plays says, it never fails to amuse me how much SJWs like Ron feel the need to strip a woman's autonomy. They never allow a female to make her own choices. No, of course not. Of course not. Colin Archer says, when anyone else speaks, Ron sounds like he's trying to skip a cutscene. Yep. That's how I listen to my mom's rants and lectures. Yeah. He has no respect for the people he's talking to. It's amazing. Stefan Pakaki says, Stephen Pakaki says, I'm imagining constant Ron's voice. Yeah, yes, right. Yeah. Sounds coming from Ron's room when he has private time. Oh, come on. That was horrible. Macca Jr. says, couldn't join the Twitch show because I was going to use my sister's Amazon account, but she canceled her subscription. But I'll take a list of the movies. The movies tonight are, how do I back to this? It's Death Wish and Evil something. Evil. I keep forgetting what it's called. Hold on. David Carradine. Where did it go? God dang it. Oh, Evils of the Night. Gosh, I gotta write that down. Death Wish, the original, and then Evils of the Night. Evil Dead isn't on there, otherwise it would be. It would be on the list already. Alan Ravenix says, if Ron was Pinocchio, how long would his nose be from his lies to peg Monica while keeping up with safe distancing? Oh, gross. Shadowgoff says, the farms were wizards, Nick. No one important says, Ron is the definition of can I pick or? Kalinka Pavlova says, I missed so much of your stream. I'll be finished by the time you finally go to bed. Also, Ron sounds girlier than me. Press 1 in chat if you agree. Kalinka Pavlova also says, YouTube wouldn't let me type girlier in my previous super chat. The AI is getting that creepy that you can't, in the context, it knew it was an insult. Jason the Great Awakening says, boxes are fine. Ron is a boxist. Gunnar Renee Oy says, why are we talking about law in my baseball stream? And Elliot Joubert says, DSP has now outlasted EVO. This guy is unstoppable. Wait, is EVO gone forever or just this year from COVID? Marsupial Gamer says, don't kid yourself. Women can be just as violent as men. Oh, I'm not denying that at all. My wife used to beat me, and when I once held her wrist to stop her from hitting me, she got bruises from it. She then threatened to call the cops and leveraged that to gain full custody of our kids. That sucks, man. No, I don't deny that women can be just as violent as men. I was just pointing out non-violent ways and different methods that each gender uses. Architect of Fate says, if Arch beats GW on trademark in Norway under EU courts, does that mean GW will lose all trademark rights to their Warhammer properties in Europe? If that happens, how could they retain their trademark in the States? Looks like a big oof to me. It depends on how they win. I am not an expert in EU copyright law or trademark law. I'm barely passable in US trademark law. But that's how they lose could be could determine that they lose the right to their trademark. That's a possibility. I don't want to say that it will happen, but it is a possibility. So we'll have to just see how that goes. We'll have to see how that goes. In the US, for example, like you can lose on a trademark infringement claim by them saying it's not infringing. So here's the analogy. That's not infringing on your trademark. And then you can lose on a trademark infringement claim saying that your trademark is actually improper because your brand is generic. Your trademark is too generic to be trademarked. Therefore, you lose the right to the trademark at that point, and it's generic and everybody can use it. So that's a way they could lose the trademark in the court. Now, will they in Norway? I don't know. And then would that impact their US one? Not necessarily. Although them having a copyright on the word Warhammer seems like a bit of a stretch and seems like it would be pretty vulnerable, actually, to a trademark challenge. So, all right, guys. Solemn says, Rackets, you son of a bitch, with the Predator handshake. I don't have Drexel here to do the other arm. So, well, thank you guys for joining me tonight. Come over to Twitch. We'll be starting up pretty quickly. Death Wish. I want to start Death Wish around 2:05 a.m. Central Time because I don't want to spend forever. I'm already going to be up till 5 in the morning watching movies. I don't want it to be 6. So we're going to get started pretty quickly. I'll play the outro. Go ahead and go get snacks and stuff and food or whatever you need. And we'll see you here in just a bit. Peace. Peace.
Oh, he drinks a fair bit, but you realize that it just helps get his noggin jogging along. With his glass by his side and his kids asleep tight, we'll hear some lost-plaining tonight. With his microphone muted, we'll laugh at this boomer until he explains it's all part of the plan. Watch his face become redder as he becomes meta, raging at idiots from Twitterland. From the white shores of Maine to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, his lady is fair, and she handles herself with the grace of one who has borne many children. As the wife of a lawman, she makes sure that he has the time and the place to provide for them there. So pour out an ardbeg, a bow, or a love rug. The spirits flow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter as we hear Lost Planning tonight. From the white shores of Nan to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, the guests are all plentiful, from Doug T to Drexel. They bring their perspective and spice to the mix. But the reason we're here and the one that we cheer is the one who is showcasing us his career. Get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter as we hear Lost Planning tonight. From the white shores of Nan to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law